We firmly believe that Black women are not only magical, but we are as invaluable and powerful as vibranium. Our podcast is dedicated to empowering Black and Brown women to embrace the transformative power of astrology and tarot. Through these intuitive arts, the Melanated Mystics will guide you to explore and connect with your deep inner magic and help you to finally release the burdens of Black Superwoman syndrome. It's time to redirect our energies inward and prioritize ourselves on this transformative journey of self-discovery. Welcome back to the Melanated Mystics. My name is Halleck Hannah, and right over there is my co-host.
Hi there, I am Carrie Myers, aka Self Carrie, and we are here with the Melanated Mystics podcast, and we have an amazing guest for you today. I'm very, very excited to introduce Aunt Carla, as many of you know her. Aunt Carla is a practicing witch of over 30 years. I'm going to just go through a couple bullet points because honestly, your bio is massive, and I was just like, What? Like, okay. So I'm just going to do some bullet points because it's got 3 planets in Virgo. So I need to do things that way. Now, Aunt Carla is a practicing witch of over 30 years with hoodoo as the foundation of her craft. So all of y'all hoodoos that are listening, this is going to be a very exciting episode. She adds knowledge of astrology, tarot, and crystals to her magical toolbox. I'm going to ask you about crystals, Carla. Okay. High priestess of the Queen Up Club Mystery School online. Her research has resulted in publishing articles including the Tale of the Civil War Hoodoo Battle. What? Okay, sorry. For witchwithme.com and the magical history of Florida water for witchsnap.com. I'm so sorry. We're going to have to get to all of this. She launched the Marie Laveau brand in 2019 to promote a 100% That Witch t-shirt featuring Marie Laveau, the New Orleans voodoo queen, which was a witch of color. And then after the protest fueled by George Floyd's death due to police brutality, Aunt Carla's Hex Racism t-shirt was created as a walking spell. We want to talk about this too, a walking spell, and has been worn by many witches around the world. Aunt Carla, your social activism also includes leading online rituals for justice, protection, and unity. Aunt Carla offers tarot and spell work consultations as well as business coaching for spiritual entrepreneurs. And that's just the beginning, okay? Because we're going to get to what you're going into your future magic and all that stuff that I'm super excited about. Anyway, I'm going to let you speak now. Thank you and welcome.
Wow. And so it's clear, like, so the bio that you have, I can update that a little bit because so much has happened since that particular bio came out. And so Marie Laveau was my original, so back in the day when I first started on IG, people knew me as Marie Laveau, and that's when the t-shirt came out, and that was during the pandemic and George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, all of that. And then I switched over to Red Soulflower, and of course, that came after because I'm always wearing this red flower in my hair. So I wanted to, I wanted to change the name. So, and the Queen Up Club became the Red Soulflower Magic Family because I'm on Carla. Everyone is in the family. So all of that is true. But I went through a little bit of rebranding after the pandemic simply because the world has, the spiritual community online has changed so much. So have I. So there you go. So I'm so happy to be here. And just, Melanated Mystics. I mean, can I tell you how excited I am to be here because we have a certain kind of background, I suppose, that we share. And we have a lot of understanding that, I've been on a lot of podcasts, but never the Melanated Mystic. So the conversations are going to be different. The understandings and experiences are going to be different. And I'm really excited about that for so many reasons. So thank you for having me.
I love that you touched upon that, Carla, because we've other guests have said that as well, that, they've spoken on a lot of podcasts, but they're not the Melanated Mystics podcast because the kind of conversations we can have here are very different and they speak to different experiences. And I also just want to say here, like, this is a conversation. The topic is you. We don't have a topic. The topic is you and whatever you want to talk about as your experience. This is all about just opening the conversation for mystics to just say, we're here. This is what we practice. It's for us. We're practical magic folks,
Oh, well, I got plenty of topics to talk about, but I'm going to start here though. I'm going to start at the Melanated Mystic part because this is very important to me. So during the pandemic, if you were anywhere on the spiritual community, especially after George Floyd's death and Black Lives Matter and there was an understanding about the Black experience that had not been experienced before. And I have no problem in saying Black mystics like myself, I felt very much flavor of the month. Very much flavor of the month. And there were I received so many requests. I was on a tour of podcasts. Oh, Carla, will you be on our podcast? Will you be on our podcast? Will you be on our podcast? And everybody wanted to talk about, well, can we do hoodoo? Can we do hoodoo? And, and that's fine. But also the reasons why people think that hoodoo is the thing to do that's a conversation in itself. And I'll get to that. But I'm not getting the same kind of request to be on podcast now as I was then, because it was a very flavor of the month because people are like, oh, we want to make sure that we have Black people and, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm like, I am happy to be that for you. You need a sassy Black friend. Yeah, here I am. Yeah, I'm totally happy to be there because it's important to represent. It's important that people, so it's like if there's an opportunity for me to speak up and share my experience and talk about anything, I think it's very important because some people don't know Black people. Some people don't have an experience of Black people. So I take that, I see myself as an ambassador in many ways. I remember speaking years ago, saying this to a friend who was white. I said, well, you know what? I don't know if that's a tax or whatever, but it's just like, I feel very, very, I feel responsible that I have to be an ambassador when I'm in a mixed situation. And my friend said, oh, you don't have to do that. But then again, she's not Black, so she doesn't have that experience. If you don't know any other Black people and I'm the first person you meet, you might judge everyone based on me, and is that my job? Okay, no, but I am mindful of that role when I step in somewhere. So what does that have to do with anything? Again, during the pandemic, there were so many people interested in hoodoo who did not have a hoodoo background, who did not have that family tradition, that it wasn't their spiritual tradition. And one of my things would be magic is universal. Every culture has a magical tradition. And you have this opinion that hoodoo is stronger or darker or more powerful. Therefore, you feel that it's a more powerful spiritual path because this, that, and the other thing, whatever preconceived notions you might have. And my thought is, no, that's not necessarily the case. But make no mistake, hoodoo came from enslaved Africans. It was their only way to kind of level the playing field, so to speak. So when you think about their spells such as come back to me, that might be real. The original context might have been someone whose partner, their lover, their child may have been sold away from them. So this is their way of trying to get them back. Or a spell like bend over or domination. Those were used because you were in an oppressive situation and you're just trying to find a way to even the score. But if you take that historical context out of it and you say, oh, I want to get my ex back, or I want to dominate this person, it's not the same. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. That's not my point. But the thing is, it's important for you to take that historical context when you consider them, but also realize that whatever your background is, your ethnicity, there is a spiritual path for you. And it's going to be stronger if you tap into that, because people think that, oh, Black people, they study their, they worship their ancestors, and therefore, and then people are like, well, do I have ancestors? Everybody has ancestors. You just don't have the same ones that I have, So I guess the point I'm making is I just want everyone to take a step back and think about your own culture and the history there. And, we as Black people, as melanated people, we've often been taken away from our culture, and we do our best to try to hold on to it. But other cultures, they're just kind of like, oh, whatever. They don't necessarily have that same reverence. And they might think that, oh, well, hoodoo is the way to go. Like, not necessarily. So my thing is, find your ancestors, find your magic.
I would like to amplify that. Whenever I get that question of where to start, how to start, I say the exact same thing. Start with your ancestors, consult your ancestors. You absolutely have them. They are probably very, very, very close. You do not need much to talk with them. And that, Carla, I cannot tell you how much I agree with that. I am always telling witches like, well, I'm just white. I'm like, no, ma'am. You have got some Celtic ancestry, some Italian ancestry. You've got some Slavic. Oh my gosh. I was like, some of these traditions that you all have, you have no idea how rich they are, probably how they're thin threads and filaments that are a part of your everyday life and your upbringing that you had no idea. You just thought it was something that Nana did or Bubby did. And no, it actually means something. And we can still be sisters, right? Like, we're still sisters in this spiritual world, in this spiritual walk. And yeah, get into it. Like Italian magic, like Strigera, like in some cultures, I'm like, yeah, some of y'all have already got this ancestor stuff already set up. Your mama has got a whole cabinet dedicated to your grandmama and your granddaddy, like in your house, in the china cabinet. Like, get into it. I love that you said that. I love that you began that. And you had me thinking too. I was thinking of the different kinds of magic, and the different kind of work that we do. And I was thinking court case magic.
And why do Black people need court case magic? Because they're often in need. They're the ones who gets arrested the most, who gets stopped and frisked, who gets, done, who gets things planted on them.
I just want to say, like, you spoke a whole word, because we have to speak whole words, to be honest, when we're not often given the space to speak, which is why we are like these topics. This is about you. The topic is you. So when we're given the space to speak, it's a whole word. And that's what I think, sometimes we talk to people and they're like, Black people always say the most profound things. And I was like, because we have thought already. We have been thinking already. If I get the mic, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? Black and brown people haven't had the mic, right? Until now, right? So we come it all out. But I love that you really talked about, like, when you take on these things, when you want to be a part of these things, thank you for celebrating it with us. But always remember the context that it comes from, and always remember where we were coming from when we created those things. And then also look at your own culture and think about what they were going through when they created those things and how it pertains to you, to them, I'm always shuffling. Carrie knows this, that I'm always shuffling. And I brought my little mini travel deck. And as we were talking, a couple of cards came up. The first one is the Ace of Swords, which I personally think is for Carrie and I, and this opportunity, and also for our listeners. There's going to be a wonderful opportunity for some clarification and some intellectual stimulation around what we're talking about. But the one that flew out when Carla brought up your own ancestry, like, what did Booker T. Washington say, which I know is controversial for people, but like, draw down your bucket where you are. Like, that's exactly what I felt like my sister and I did, like, with
hoodoo, like when we kicked ourselves out of the broom closet, we're Black women from Mississippi. Like this is, the ancestors are calling this is what it is. So I just want to say to our listeners, and if you're getting a chance to look at this on video, the card that flew out was the Hanged One when Carla was talking about that. And, beautiful, beautiful figure. I think it's based on an old Norse legend about Odin and when he was being hung upside down. And, I also want to let people know, like, this is not a struggling figure. The legs make a 4, hands, but like, this isn't somebody that's hanged by the neck, right? Like, this is kind of this suspension. And so to the topic that we're talking about, I just want to say, if you are new to any of these intuitive arts, esoteric practices, tarot, astrology, hoodoo, any of the African traditional religions and spiritual practices, or maybe you're of a different culture and tradition, get comfortable with the discomfort of being at the beginning. Because it is such a powerful place. And it's like yin yoga. I always tell people this. When you first get started doing a yin yoga position or a practice, it feels like no way on earth can I have my hip open like this for 5 minutes. I'm not going to be able to sit like this. You start panicking in that first 15 to 30 seconds. Like, is he really going to set the timer for 3 minutes? Can I really do this? But after a smooth minute, you begin to settle in. And that is when the little halo appears. That's when the enlightenment happens. So take your time, get on whatever you need to get onto, like Ancestry.com, 23andMe. You can find your ancestors. You can find your people, even if you don't know your parents, and get comfortable with the discomfort of being at the beginning. So when it came out, I just felt it so strongly. I just wanted to say it. So.
Oh, no, thank you for that. And then now, since you said that, I also want to flip that. Now, having said all of that, I also want us to remember, as Melanated Mystics, we often aren't 100% African. Both of you are like, so we also have to acknowledge that we have, I am not black, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's stuff in my ancestry, and most of us, there are other threads. So as Melanated Mystics, we also have to make peace with the other parts of us. So we both have both the oppressed and the oppressor in our bloodlines. And we also have to make peace with that. But we also have to make peace with those are other, depending on, I know people might say, oh, you're appropriating. But the thing is, we also have access to other threads of magic as well. So I've always felt like that there was some Norse in me, and I did not have any proof of that until I got, like, one of my teachers used there was this Norse a sigil that she used, and I used it, and it was really sick, and it was very successful for me. And I was like, oh, okay, but this is before the internet, before I had heard of the word appropriation in that way. So but I'm like, I feel like I might have some Norse in me. I don't have any proof. And for the longest time, I didn't want to do a DNA test, but I did. And then there it was. I was like, oh, so perhaps there is that too. So we also have to make peace because, because there are people saying, oh, my ancestors they owned slaves, and I don't know how I feel about that. Well, apparently so did mine too, so you have to make peace with the fact that you have multiple lines within you. And of course, we're all connected, all of those things, but there are other things that you might be attracted to. So when we talk about having an eclectic practice, there may be reasons that you are attracted to certain things because that might be in your genealogy as well. So there you go. We're all complex people. That's really what it comes down to.
Indeed. We should have, this is definitely a fun YouTube live or YouTube series on eclecticism by itself. Because truly, look at us. This is the rainbow up here. I tell people whenever people ask questions like that, I'm like, oh, I look like this because that would be colonization. That's kind of the way that is. And I'm so with you on that. I always felt the same way too about Norse mythology. I never forget when I was obsessed with that show Vikings. And my husband asked, because he used to work for Ancestry.com. We are not getting paid for this, although we should be. he worked for Ancestry. He goes like, the technology has changed. We should do another test. The first test was like, can you please start over? They literally took my DNA. I was like, we don't know, start over. But I found 11%, it was like 11% Scandinavian. And I was like, the blood speaks. Like the blood speaks to you. It is trying to talk to you. It is trying to. So when you see that little thread, start pulling it, follow the white rabbit down. Yeah. There's no telling what you might find. Seriously.
I love that. Thank you, Halakun, and thank you, Aunt Carla, for talking about that. Okay, I knew we were going to get into stuff that was like, just like off the cuff, because this is also a very much a North American experience, yes? Because when I travel overseas, other people, I'm this, I'm that, I'm part, and it's like it's all a part of who they are. I am Swiss German, I am Italian, Mexican, whatever, and it's, so for us, it seems to be North Americans, when I say us, we seem to need to compartmentalize. And what I think is really cool about using mystical practices is that you can you just go where you're called, and it's not about a category. And recently I had a friend of mine did an oracle card pull, and I know my ancestry. I did a little ancestry.com, but what I think it's more about what you're called to for me. Anyway, it's just like, okay, I know it's there, but like, what am I called to? She did this, goddess oracle. And, she said, I'm going to pull 2 cards for you. And I'm thinking, I want my Africans, my African goddesses. Yes. I'm like, that's who I'm getting, y'all, give me some of that. And, I pulled, Freya, who is a Norse, I believe. And then I pulled, and I had never studied them. I had studied my African goddesses, so I didn't know, but I pulled Freya and I pulled Minerva, who's a Roman, and she's all about the power of belief and the biology of belief. And that's, if you know me, I'm just like a mental magician. Like I'm always just like, how can I mess with my own head, and mess with everybody else's head too. So I started studying and learning about it, because this is not, first of all, I was like, this is not what I know, but I'm called to it. And then I started learning about it and learn like, who is Freya and Odin and all of that story and all of that. And it's just, we have stories for a reason, and we're part of them, and so just go where you're called. Yeah. On that note, we want to talk about, Carla, what we call your mystical birthday. What's your mystic birthday, which is the moment that you became a mystic, or you learned that this was the calling for you. Do you have a story like that?
I can't think of a particular moment, except that I have an aunt, or I had an aunt, she passed, and she was doing candles, and she would take me to the Botanica I might stay with her house, like for the weekend when my parents, went away. And Saturday we'd go downtown and we would go to the Botanica, and then we would go to she wasn't Catholic. She was AME, African Methodist Episcopal, but she would always go to this particular Roman Catholic church and light a candle. But the Botanicas, I just really was fascinated with. So it's kind of like, just watching the things that she did, or she would read 23rd Psalm, she'd light a candle and read and she never explained what she was doing. She was one of those people that believed a child should be seen and not heard. So I couldn't have a conversation with her about it, but I was fascinated with these practices that she did. I was fascinated. Just remember being fascinated with the different doodads and statues at the Botanica. And just, I guess when I left, and I'm from Florida, I'm from Miami, Florida. And I moved to New York, I found myself at a candle store. A friend of mine brought me to a candle store. And then I had the means to do this myself. So I suppose there was something about being away from home, or, away from my childhood home, living in New York and feeling like, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to do more of this. Or going to the store where the person who owned the store, she had like Scandinavian heritage, and she had different sigils that she used. But I remember the one that was Scandinavian was the one that kind of worked really well. But they would always do stuff for us. Like you would go, so you'd say, okay, I would like a candle made. This is my intention. And they would make it in front of you. They'd use like a pull out thing, and they would create it for you. And then they would always like turn their back where they had this book of all their seals and sigils. And then they would carve it in front of you. They'd anoint it, sprinkle it with glitter, and, and tell you what to do, and say, this is when you burn it, get these colored flowers. And then at some point, the woman who owned it, she created her own book and she self-published it. And I was like, oh, I want to learn how to do this. So it's sort of like layers for me. But the moment that I bought her book and, she just like had it spiral bound, like nothing fancy. I went home, I started doing my own candles, and it did not look as pretty as the staffers made them. They were like gorgeous when they made them. When I made them, they did not look great at all, but they were effective. And then that's when I realized, oh, I'm doing something. Like, the intention is still intentioning, So somewhere at that point, that's when I'm like, I'm doing something. This is good. Although now that you're making me think of it, there was another time before I left Florida when I did a spell for some other people. Time is like weird, it's like, I think that I'm thinking happened in New York also happened in Florida before I even left. So I think I did something. I wanted to help someone else, and I did a spell and they got great results. And I was like, I did that. But I didn't tell them, which I do not recommend anybody do. Like you really, if you're going to do something on someone's behalf, you really should, they should be in on it. They should give you their permission. But at that point, I'm just saying I helped some people save their marriage. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. They ended up divorcing anyway. But at the moment, I understand that. But at that moment, I helped to save their marriage. So I say all that to say, just when you practice or you try something and then you're like, oh, I like this. Not even from a feeling of, I am so powerful, but just sort of like, oh, okay. I'm understanding the mechanics of creating a ritual that has intention, and you're getting the results that you had worked for. And, it's like cooking too, like spell work is like cooking, you're getting your ingredients and you set your intention, and, and you're baking a cake, all of that. Just seeing that the cake came out great, again, they ended up divorce, years later, but it was like, oh, okay, I like this.
And Carrie's a bit of a kitchen witch herself. Carrie, yeah, and I love talking to people and telling them that, not only is that some of the easiest work to do, especially if you love playing around in the kitchen, also, you got botanicals that are already in there. This pumpkin spice that everybody talks about is not the flavor of pumpkins. It's abundant spices, right? Like these are abundance roots and herbs and fruits and botanicals.
Cinnamon.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Cinnamon. Oh goodness. Cinnamon alone, the things that cinnamon will do. Ginger to heat things up, like cardamom, like so many. I mentioned a lot of love and prosperity stuff because that's what I love the most. I messed around and found some cardamom syrup the other day, and I was like, oh, it's over for y'all out here. This is, they might just burn me at the stake in my town. It's not funny. It's not funny. It's a joke I make. So as we talk about mystic birthdays, right? Like our magic origin stories, and Carrie's the one that came up with that. So I love Carrie that I'm like, that was just inspired, Carrie. I love that we start every interview with that. I would love to talk about, especially since we were talking a little bit about ATRs, being hoodoos ourselves. It is one thing to have this spiritual practice, to be your own spiritual artist, like cultivate, like developing your praxis, like what are your, how do we ritualize just life? I always talk to people about it kind of being, it's kind of just the foundation, of my life. I talk about it a lot because I am kind of a house witch. I am a mama. That's where a lot of my magic happens. Or if I'm doing work for people, it is pretty much confined. I pretty much confine it, other than my readings, to my family, to my daughters, my family, my good, my close girlfriends, Carrie, I may or may not have done a spell for you. But I just consider that I have blanket approval to do spells. I assume that I have blanket approvals to do spells for Carrie. I would like, it's one thing for us to be witches, hoodoos, sorcerers, sorceresses, seers. It's another thing to kind of be out here with it. You know what I mean? Like talking to people about it, publishing things, bringing people in, creating these communities. So instead of, I think one of my first questions was, what was your sole purpose for being a mystic? Who do you want to impact and why? I would like to say, because I think I kind of get that. And that's all like deeply, deeply, deeply personal. I think all of us as women need to figure out like where we are spiritually rooted, because it's going to amplify and empower every part of our lives. But in terms of coming out with it, becoming like a spiritual entrepreneur, like wanting to be Marie Lizzo, like, we creating that beautiful, like creating this, this beautiful avatar of ourselves that we project onto our digital altars, which hopefully inspires people, bringing them in. Why that?
Oh, I love this question. I truly believe that everyone has a right to the life that they want to lead. And I do not believe that we are at the mercy of fate. So me deciding to become a spiritual teacher and to be out loud about it is because I want people to know that you can create yourself, you can recreate yourself. And the way this, and I also, because some, depending on what side you're on, some people say, oh, all you want to do is manifest, or people that just manifest, it's so very selfish. But I'm like, think about the way this world is set up. If you want to think about it from a capitalistic view or just in general, it is not an easy thing to do what it is that you want to do. And I believe that using magic, witchcraft, whatever you want to call that, these are tools to help you create the life that you want to create, to live your best life. Because if you're just raw dogging it and not doing anything, like what is you doing? I just feel like you want to add whatever help you can get to make things happen, because it's not going to happen by itself. So it's like, that means being intentional. And if that means using cinnamon and nutmeg and, taking your, it could be something as simple as have like your pumpkin spice latte, and setting an intention on it, but doing things on a regular basis that puts you in the positive side of things, that gives you that extra edge. Because, a lot of people are using edges that they have. And most of us don't necessarily have, big trust funds or necessarily a lot of disposable income. But if you have magic as a tool in your toolbox, that is something that you can use, because some people have family connections, some people have money, and they are using those things. So why not use magic? That is something it's a very democratic kind of thing. If you have the tools, you have the knowledge, you can use those things to give yourself an advantage. And I feel that's kind of political in a way, if you want to see it that way. Well, I choose to see it that way because I refuse to accept that there are things that I cannot do. Like, I'm going to try my darndest to, if there's like a room that I want to get into, a person that I want to meet, an opportunity that I want to have, I'm not just going to be like, okay, I'm just going to cross my fingers and and see if maybe it will happen. I'm going to do everything in my power. And that might include using some herbs. That might include doing a ritual. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I know that there's people who are like, gosh, there's those people who are just trying to manifest everything. Yes, we are. But the thing is, not everything is going to come through, but also no one's going to get everything that they want 100% across the board. There's nothing wrong. I guess the people I've heard this kind of thing, they're coming from the place of people will be greedy and people will take all the things and they'll want to buy big houses and like, no, but we all want different things. Some person, yes, they want to get a Tesla and they want to have this big house on the beach. Let them have it. Other people, they want to have the freedom to live off grid. that is also a valid thing. We all want different things. And if we all had the power to create whatever we wanted to create, we wouldn't all want to live in big houses. So my thing is, live and let live. I'm live and let live about everything. So if someone wants to live in their big house and they want to drive, an SUV, and okay, that's great. Not everybody wants to drive an SUV. Some people are happy with, walking, using a bike. So it's just sort of kind of like, let me be great. Let me do what I want to do. And again, I don't believe in raw dogging life, like whatever we can do to create advantages in our life, I believe. And magic is one of those tools. Therapy is another. But, oh my goodness. So Carrie, what you were just saying about like hacking your own brain, like that is so important. So things like there are tools we can use, and Halleck, you're talking about like, you're talking about creating an avatar. So like these are other tools that we can use to transform ourselves, to transform our lives. And I believe if you are someone who is mindful of your strengths and your weaknesses, you can continue to create new change in your life. So hack your brain. Like, okay, do you need like dopamine hits to get certain things done? Or you need to use an avatar in order to see yourself completing this particular task that you think is really different? That's magic too. And that's where like that whole big magic thing that I'm working on is also including, because there's the little things that we want to do. But for me, I'm also thinking about big things that I want to do that don't really fit into a little spell. So let's say, okay, so now I'm pivoting right now. I'm taking the conversation to another place. So for example, when we talk about doing rituals, someone might do a spell to get money for rent. Okay, I want to pay my rent this month. I need something. I need a hit of X amount of dollars. Okay, that's great. Now, me, for example, there's things that I want to do in my life that's more than just, I don't want just to make more money. I want to shift to a new career. I want to learn how to do something else. And that's going to be a bigger spell. That's going to be a bigger ritual. So using things like avatars or hacking your brain, I don't even know what to call that, using these other tools to tap into other archetypes so that you can also access with magic. So I feel like that's what I call quote unquote big magic, because we want something a little bigger. I'm not asking for a date this weekend. I'm not asking to meet my soulmate. I'm talking about changing my life. I'm talking about changing my path. That's a bigger kind of spell. So that is also what I'm really fascinated with playing right now. And that's so much more. No, I don't want to say it's more than hoodoo, but it's not hoodoo, not technically. So I like to say that hoodoo is my foundation. That's where I came. And because hoodoo is very simplistic, I appreciate that. And that informs everything I do. So I don't believe that everything has to be this huge thing, but also because it was created by enslaved Africans, there's also certain limitations because they were oppressed. So for one time, there was a moment I was calling myself the happy hoodoo, but I'm like, it doesn't really make sense and it doesn't really fit because that is not the energy that it was created with. So I'm thinking, what does transformation magic look like? That is where I'm evolving to now.
I'm getting my my Lil Kim, I always, whatever I'm into it, I'm like, I start to channel like female rappers, like Raw Digga, like, oh, okay, you're talking to me. Okay. Like what? Okay. And also I have to say, as I'm listening to you, Carla, I've been studying your chart and I'm just like, oh, here's that Sagittarius coming out. There's a lot. Okay. And I was like, oh, here it come. Cause I was like, in the beginning, it was like the Taurus moon. It's like, oh, no, let's talk about some little, herbal herbs and stuff, but then I was like, oh, okay, here come the big picture. Here she come. Okay. So, anyway, yes. Thank you, darling. I really got into that. And the future of it too, which we're going to talk about it later, but I'm loving that you're tapping into that. There's so much more to magic. And, in the age of Aquarius now, we get to explore the all those other parts.
This is why this podcast, and the more we do this and the more I live my chart, right? The more I explore, expand my own hoodoo practice, like my own practices. I put myself out there to get to know other practitioners. I am so useless, like with small talk and other conversations. Like at this point, I'm thinking, how am I supposed to go to a track team potluck after this? Like, all I want to do is talk to other witches and hoodoos about what they're creating and their charts and how they feel and what kind of magic they're doing. That's all I want to do. I'm becoming so spoiled and useless. I have a million questions, and it's because the company is so good. The questions are wonderful. The milieu is great. The technology is here for us to have these amazing conversations because all of us are of the age, and I know I'll speak for myself. Like, yeah, we did not used to have podcasts. We did not have ebooks. We couldn't, there were 3 big tarot books, maybe, like if you lived in the right place, and it was hard for people to make the little books that went with the tarot cards. So this is just so wonderful. I'm so enthused. Like all the questions are changing. I have some huge questions about hoodoo monikers and what my sister and I call hoodoo futurism and the future of hoodoo. But we'll get to that later.
So I want to say real quick, because I really am interested, y'all, we got 2 hoodoos here, and I really wanted to have some space to talk about that and learn from the 2 of you. But I wanted to ask really quick, how do you use astrology? Because we are an astrology and tarot podcast. How do you use astrology and tarot in your life and business? Carla, real quick.
I like to think of astrology, the seasons, as sub-seasons. So every, we have a spring, summer, winter, fall, and that's the season. And I treat each astrology sign as a sub-season. And I like to use that for in my personal life. I like to look at what are the strengths going on, what are the energies of the season for manifestation, for example. And so like Aries, right now we're in Aries, so this is like new beginnings, and it's a new cycle. I think this is a great time for starting things. So I have a membership group called Magical You. So each month we have a new moon, what I call crayon coven. And it's like, I will remind them, these are the things in the season. These are the energies of the season. So whatever it is that you want to call in, tap into these particular aspects. Because, for example, if it's Virgo season, I'm not going to recommend trying to get love. But of course, Libra, for example, Libra season might work a little bit more for like romantic spells or opening yourself up to a romantic, situation. So I like to use them for planning the different rituals and teaching. So I use that a lot. As far as tarot, I've been doing a lot more oracle work. I've been working more with oracle cards lately, but I do appreciate doing readings for myself with the tarot and getting those messages. They've been around for hundreds of years, and they have the symbolism and the colors that have been around forever. So I like tapping into the tarot for like more personal guidance.
Oh, I love that. Because I'm also thinking, okay, great. That's kind of how I use it too. Okay, good. I'm doing that right. Carrie taught us, like, look for where this is in your chart. And you're right. You're so, I love that. I'm going to have to remember that for certain clients. Because sometimes we have clients that, or at least I have had, and I remember this one with all my heart, how just the universe for this time in her life was just set up for money making, business building, networking, but bless her heart, like all she was focused on was the love. And I was like, I don't know how to tell you how much easier it's going to be for you to find love if you pay attention to what the universe wants for you now, because perhaps the love is to be found at that conference you're going to be speaking at. Perhaps your financial planner is going to be the person that you build the rest of your life with. I was like, so I love that so I just want to listen from another certified bona fide elder witch, knows she's doing, been doing it for a while. Y'all, please listen. Speaking of which, so my question, and I feel so blessed to have a hoodoo who I am feeling that we are of the same mind about some things or have the same liberality of thought about certain things, especially around eclecticism, naming that, saying it, owning it. Because if we talk about holistic intuitive arts, like, yes, we do have to look, and if we are the altar, I love the way you say you are the spell, you're the altar. So like how we need to own and claim these parts of ourselves. So I want to talk about a symbol that appears in the tarot, especially with the Hierophant card. At the bottom, we've got cross keys, which in hoodoo, it's a beautiful symbol, right? Of the cross keys. Key to the future is understanding, unlocking the past. I think as a community, if you can call our eclectic, like who we are right now in this as a community, I think we're getting a handle on that. I think we're starting to, to understand, to read. We've got some beautiful resources out there. Dr. Yvonne Chareau's one of my personal favorites, a great way to get started with that book, Black Magic, which I think was her dissertation. She's this wonderful professor at Swarthmore. She's wonderful. But anyway, the cross keys. So I think we got a good handle on understanding, unlocking the past, where this comes from. That yes, it's the remnants of what was brought over from like West Africa, and it kind of turns into different things. I'm very interested in the future. My sister and I call ourselves hoodoo futurists. I love the way you said you had a moniker, like a hoodoo moniker too, because I call myself the bougie hoodoo. Because I feel like it's something I kind of wanted to get out there with, because it was kind of used to, it wasn't very sensitive, and it was something was kind of used to criticize me or criticize the way I talked about it in public forums. So I was like, F it, I'm gonna own it. Like hoodoo just looks different. All of us are not head wrap warriors, right? Like we come from different places. We have different practices. What do you think is the future? How does the future of people, especially Black and brown women, reclaiming these ancestral practices and traditions? Whatever a little peek into your future visioning about it is, like, what would you?
You decolonize your practice. I can't believe I just said that. And what I mean by that is to recognize where are the places in your practice that you might be using that you got from somewhere else, but you don't necessarily know that you got from somewhere else. So that means there's things that most of us have had some kind of experience in church. And, we've grown up in church, or, we even do it alongside hoodoo. Many hoodoos are also Christian, so, and other people who don't know, they're like, wait, what? But we know, so I don't have to explain that. Before you can look in the future, you also need to pay attention to the past and recognize where are the places that you might have been influenced by the past, and not in a good way. Because some people bring Christianity or Christian practices or dogma. Like if you're bringing dogma into your practice, you need to take a good look at that, because that is something that's actually colonialism. It's colonialism disguising itself as something else. So paying attention or questioning some of the things that you do and allowing yourself to try something different. It's okay to expose yourself to new things. It's okay to try different things and add different practices, maybe from other cultures, and not listen to all the things that you hear on social media, because, there's a lot of gatekeeping things. Now gatekeeping has its place. Let me not, we know this too. But I think for people of color, we have to be very mindful that we're not appropriating anything. We have it in us. But if you listen to the wrong voices, you might say, oh, I can't do this because that would be appropriating. But the thing is, if you look at your ancestry, you know that you were called to do certain things, it means that there's something that you need to study. And don't feel locked into something because someone told you that you can't. I don't know if that's making sense. But so it's just looking at because like hoodoo itself is not about dogma at all. It's about using what is in your what is handy, what's around you. I always come back to like, well, did my ancestors have that? What did my ancestors have? And usually they didn't have a lot. So that gives us a lot of freedom. That gives you a lot of freedom to use what you have. What is around you? What are you attracted to? How can you incorporate those things? So I guess for me, I would say that just being more experimental, trying different things, and not allowing yourself to get locked in by dogma that is not even yours.
It's like it's like the card, the Eight of Swords. Sometimes we make jails for ourselves that are not even our jails. Like that card, if that card teaches anyone anything, like I'm sure you know that y'all know the one I'm talking about. I talk about this all the time.
Yes. With I love that card. I mean, I love that card when it comes up in a reading. When I do that reading, it's just like it's the jail of your own creation. And I love showing people, because like when I do it like on a Zoom call, I do my readings from Zoom. So like I go, you see this card, you see this woman, she is surrounded by these swords, but look, for one thing, she's not even tied that tightly, and she might there might be water around her, but it's like even teeny tiny puddles.
Yeah, it's murky. It's murky. It's unstable.
Yeah, but she thinks it's worse than it is. So it's like if she's able, and the thing is, if you notice, like the blindfold is kind of loose. So if she could just wriggle herself out of it, she would see she is not in water. She's just around water, and she can easily walk around. They're like, there's no jailer there. So she could get out. Once she gets out, she could see that there's safety behind her and she can get out of it. But at that moment, she's afraid. She does not know how close she is to allowing herself to be free. So yeah. Oh, I love that card. Yeah.
Thank you for that wonderful answer. And I know it's not only validating to me, because I'm already like a grown woman, like I'm already a grown woman. I feel very comfortable in who I am, my practice. I kind of don't care. I mean, I really care, but I really don't care what other people have to say about it. Because how could you critique or like make me feel bad about the magic I perform for myself, my family, like that's so deeply personal. I am so, so, so grateful for that. And you're right. The decolonization, you are so correct. Like, and there are so many of us too. I just feel like if we just kind of tap the eye, like if we just tap the eye, we'll see that even some of our favorite gospel artists, they don't go on stage before they sit down in front of their altar, which is really an altar, which is really their own personal, their two candles, their white cloth, like their member, their mirror. Yeah. So some of this it's so deeply personal, and you're right. Like the decolonization, that is so brilliant. What is the card where do you find yourself in the tarot, specifically in the major arcana? Carla, if you're looking for yourself in that deck, or your favorite card?
It always used to be like, if you would have asked me years ago, I would say the Empress. I love the Empress card. I love the Empress card. But when you happen to actually ask me, when Carrie said, or when that form said, what do you relate to? The Magician is what came up. And I'm like, oh, surprise. But I think I really am. I mean, it doesn't mean everything it's not that I get what I want, but I'm creating a lot as a writer, as an entrepreneur. I'm quite prolific. And so when I don't say forced me, but when you asked the question and I had to think about it, I'm like, I could like the Empress all I want, but the Magician is really where I am. That's who I am. So, and then it also made me think kind of like, well, Carla, if you're really a magician, you need to be flexing that a little better. You could do even more with that, because, it's kind of like, I understand that I love to create stuff. I love to express myself. But there's things that I'm not creating because if you think about, oh my God, I can't believe we're having I'm channeling right now. When you think about the Empress card, the Empress is laid back. She's laid back. She's receiving. She's fertility and abundance and all of these things. The position of the posture of the Magician is like an attention, and and got the wand, and they're ready. They're at the ready, and that is how I feel. I am not sitting back like the Empress. No matter I don't know what made me think that that was me. I mean, I like it. I mean, I guess that's my Taurus moon. Like, oh yeah, that's me, but that's not me. I'm the one who's like, I want to make this happen. I want to help other people's make it happen. I'm like, let's do this. Let's create. Let us change lives. That's, to me, that's a magician.
I am just levitating. Because when I saw you chose that, I was like, oh, this is going to be a conversation, because I'm like, identifying with the magician. But I mean, honestly, to take us into our my next question, because we're going to do your little mini astrology reading here. And you mentioning the magician, and I'm like, I could go all over your chart, girl. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, there's a lot here to work with. And I was like, I want to talk about all of it. But man, when you mentioned the magician, I was like, we must talk about this Jupiter and Uranus conjunction that's coming up for you, because that is the light bulb moment. That is the magician. Like, okay. And also, I just want to thank you so much for giving me carte blanche to talk about whatever I wanted to talk about. Aunt Carla was like, you could talk about what you want. Just go in my chart. She's like, it's open, so thank you. The first thing, usually when I look at someone's chart, it's like I go to the first thing that I look at. It's usually a stellium, because that's usually where, 3 or more planets in one place. You got a big one in your 10th house of career. And I was like, okay, well, there it is. Okay. For those of y'all who are not looking at her chart, which is everybody but me, Aunt Carla has Jupiter and Pluto and Uranus in her 10th house of career. Can we talk about the most contradictory planets to have natally, I would say, in the career house? One, and also her, and it's all under the sign of Virgo, by the way. So if you're wondering if she's productive, yes, she's productive. Yes. That Jupiter, of course, is, I would say, and I'm going to talk about this real quick, the Jupiter being the abundance of career. But also we must understand that Jupiter often can be overabundance. So Carla, you may have found yourself in kind of golden handcuffs sometimes when it came to a career, like being offered things and be like, well, just because I can, should I, do I, this is feed my soul. And of course, when you have that Uranus there too, there were many times throughout your life where you were just like confused about it. A lot of people will be like, I want this career, I want this thing. And it's like, but what about the folks that have an overabundance of a career and have to choose and have to align and have to actually like consult themselves and say, who am I and what do I choose? And then, of course, you got that beautiful Pluto right there in the 10th house, Pluto representing power, Pluto representing where power was taken from us at a younger age, and where we fight to get it back and have our Phoenix rising moment within our career. The 10th house, the very top of your chart, the most public. All of these things with Carla were going to happen in the most public way, because this is all happening in her 10th house. It sits at the very top of her chart. So we all get to see it. And then also, because I work with asteroids, I have to notice that there's Eros in your 10th house, which is your passion. You are passionate about your career. This is a ball player here, y'all. This is an MVP, okay? You are passionate about it, and you are passionate about showing us how to do it too. Because, there are folks who are like, yeah, I'm going to make this. I'm going to do this. But they're not trying to show us all how to do it. And that's where that passion comes in, and I respect it. I just want to say much respect for this chart. Well, let's talk about this Jupiter and Uranus conjunction. And also, I just want to say real quick, because remember earlier I was saying she got a lot of Sagittarius in her chart. Aunt Carla is a Sagittarius rising. So her holy trifecta is she is a sun in Capricorn, okay? She is a moon in Taurus, and her rising is Sagittarius, which Halakyu will be really into, because she got a moon in Sagittarius. So that's where y'all connect. But you also, Carla, you have, again, this is an asteroid and it's part of Arabic astrology, but it's called part of fortune. That lies in your 9th house, which is a Sagittarius house. Part of fortune is how you make your fortune in this lifetime, okay? And it's in the sign of Leo, which represents kind of a celebrity, kind of a personality, and out there, a charismatic, magnetizing individual in the house of travel, foreign travel, other cultures, higher learning, philosophy. So really bring in the good word. The 9th house is the traveling prophet, is what I call it. And so it's like that's what you're doing, basically. You're traveling, and you're doing it in a very charismatic way. And in the age of Aquarius, your travel can be even through the internet. You are bringing the good word. How about that? That's what we're going to say. You bring in a good word. Now, on April 21st, we are having something that hasn't happened in 14 years. It's called a Jupiter and Uranus conjunction. Okay. And what this means is that Jupiter, which represents our most lucky and abundant and expansive planet in our known universe, the largest planet in our known universe, is going to be exactly conjunct with the planet Uranus, which represents light bulb moments, lightning striking. It represents suddenly, out of nowhere, unexpected, right? It is the sign, it is the planet most connected to the age or the sign of Aquarius. So you have to think of something that comes out of nowhere to progress the collective, right? So that is what is about to happen for Carla. Now, she's probably feeling it already, because even when you were talking about future magic and even in talking about some of I'm feeling called to talk about this now. I was like, she's feeling this Jupiter and Uranus conjunction coming up, right? Because it is not far away. I think it's less than 2 weeks away that we're talking about. And we are in the middle of a Mercury in retrograde, so it might feel like it's going to be forever, but it is going to get here. Okay. But that Jupiter and Uranus, when you take that, all of that expansiveness, that like luck, that abundance, and it is in a conjunction to a planet that it's suddenly, unexpectedly, you can't see it coming. It's in the sign of Taurus, which is where your moon is as well. So you're very emotionally connected to this conjunction. And it also is happening in your 6th house. Now, the 6th house in astrology it's our Virgo house. So it represents things like wellness and daily routine. It also like your day-to-day hustle. That's kind of like what it represents. Basically, what it means is that when this conjunction comes in, you're going to be hitting the gas on everything. And it's like work projects, workout class, social plans, like everything. And that's why I'm saying I think you're feeling it already, because you were like wielding that magician's wand, just like, this is me now, y'all. Now, it is a light bulb moment that inspires a completely new approach to your literally every day, like a new routine, a new everything. Okay. Now, it is a lot of energy. So please be careful with yourself, because the 6th house also represents the nervous system. And we can be prone to burnout and things like that when we have that much power happening all at once in that area of life. But you will have the energy to do it. The 6th house is our productivity house. And so what this is all about is about you suddenly having the energy to do everything you ever wanted to do. And that is going to be interesting for Taurus moon. Okay. Because sometimes the Taurus can be, change can be like, well, wait, let me digest my food first, and then I'll get up and go do something. Right. So it can be a little setback. I even had a conversation with a Taurus last night, and we were talking about this conjunction. She was like, I know it's coming. And I was like, girl, everybody else is happy about this. And you're just like, oh, but I mean, it's change, but it's literally like you have somebody who has lots of ideas, but you've not always had the energy to orchestrate it. And this is the moment. And it will be with us for
too many to orchestrate properly.
Yeah, too many ideas, right? And that's what we're saying, because in the 6th house, this is a Virgo house. And I got 3 planets in Virgo. So I've never met an Excel sheet that I don't like. Okay. So this is about basically everything goes into the sheet and every part of it gets done. Right. So this is exciting because I could feel it with you. And I know you do feel it. I mean, talk to me a little bit. I don't want to talk about you at you.
I'm super excited about it. And, and we also have this solar eclipse coming up in a couple of days. And I have been doing certain things so I'm moving into some new projects and some new interests. And I've also realized that in order to do them properly, I need to let go of the things that aren't working or the other things that are taking up too much of my time. So it's kind of like, it's like what I've seen people who have kids, like moms do this, where when they were single, they were kind of like, oh, I can do all this, blah, 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 blah. But the moment they start having kids, they get organized in a way that they weren't before because they don't have the time. So it's like, I don't have the time to be doing all these different things. I have to do the things that are the most important. And so I realized that to make the pivots that I want to make and the new projects, I'm going to have to let go of the other things that might be nice or might be fun, but they're really not moving the needle forward. So I have been, for the past month, well, actually since the beginning of the year, just like really cutting down on some of the things that I thought were important because I want to make space for this new thing, but that also means doing less. So I'm ready. I feel like I'm in a really good place not to overload myself, so I can really put my energies towards like my new projects, because I can't attack these new things if I'm still loaded down. So, you have to like let stuff go. So I'm very excited because I'm doing new things. I'm learning new things. And I feel like I'm on the right track. So I know this sounds kind of vague, but I am very excited. I had to write that down. April 21st. Okay, good.
And it will be there for an entire year. So this energy will be with you for an entire year. And then you weren't vague at all. You were right on point. It's happening. So
what would you recommend? Would you have any recommendations for how best to use that energy?
Absolutely. Well, I'm very well versed in the Virgo. I would say if the Virgo really reminds me of the Hermit card. I don't know why, but it does. And I think it's because my idea of the hermit is that it's very much about going somewhere to rest so that you can come back and be the best that you can be, And so this is, again, like I was talking about, this is connected to the nervous system. So this is a rest house as well. So making time for rest and balance and well-being, because this sixth house is also the house of the physical body, which means all of this activity will be affecting your health as well. So keeping your health together, keeping your stamina together, creating the routines that support that, so that these other things are just going to happen, Carla. They're going to happen. So just create the structure and the routine and the support system so that you can let these things happen and delegate a couple of things.
All right. I appreciate that. I can totally appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, this is exciting. Well, first of all, Carla, just let me say, it is always such a thrill to read for another professional practitioner. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a thrill. It's like dancing in the front row of a dance class. It makes you work harder, right? Like, it makes you work harder. You're thinking about the group, the collective, like your energy is important that you be on, right? Because it flows down to everybody else and it really makes you want to pay attention. This is very exciting. Your question was, what do you need to know about your upcoming ventures around music and producing music? And we talked a little bit about that earlier. I'm so excited. And I could not help it because one of my favorite what do they call us? Like spiritual entrepreneurs. One of the cards that came up, I got so excited. And I always tell people, like, when I get started, that I can't sew, but my grandma Hallecky was this prolific quilter, and we love odd numbers and hoodoos. So I love to read in panels I kind of try to make a crazy quilt with a card. I like to read in panels of 3. I like reading so that the supporting elements are on the outside and the cream is in the middle. Sometimes like what we should be looking for in the middle. And in like an hour reading, obviously I have time to do many more panels. But about this really wonderful question, I also want to point out, Carrie and I like to tell and point out when people ask great questions. Of course, Carla structured her question simply but very well. What do I need to know? I feel like so many people come into readings like feeling like the tarot is like a sword of Damocles hanging over them, like the sword's about to fall and chop off their head. That's not the case at all. And we can ask and structure our question in a way that empowers us so that you've got the information so you can make the inspired decision. You can meditate, you can plan to bring about what you want to achieve our ends. Carla spoke about that earlier. Like, everybody deserves to live the life they want to live. So I just want to say that it was a wonderful way to ask a question. You can tell It's a thinking woman's question. It's a practical woman's question. Because, and as we find out, of course, Sun in Capricorn, Taurus moon, this makes a lot of sense. So, of course, we get a card that if you're an entrepreneur, much less a spiritual entrepreneur, that makes your heart go pitter patter, right? The Ace of Pentacles. We know that aces represent opportunities, right? Like that represent opportunities. This is a chance to plant what I call a dream seed. It literally, truly looks like, a hand descending from the heavens to just give you your dream seed. We see a beautiful vine covered what looks like an entryway to a house. So that, that makes us think about and focus on the element that corresponds to this card, right? So opportunities around what? Pentacles, coins, our resources, our domicile, our physical body. So when we're talking about like your new initiatives in music and production, what we do know on Carla is that they will be remunerative. Like there's the opportunity she's a I was thinking the Queen of Pentacles, like Megan Thee Stallion. Like she's a walking bag of money. She's an athlete when she's running. Anyway, gonna go see Megan and Glorilla at Bottle Rock, by the way. So excited about that. Back to the Ace of Pentacles. Opportunity. This is going to be remunerative. Yes. Yeah, we have some things to look forward to. Not only obviously the satisfaction and the blessing of being able to do the work that you love, working in collaboration with a partner, but yeah, it's going to be remunerative. And this is a wonderful time. When we see an ace, I always like to tell people, like, I like to give you a 3, we like to work with the seasons. So over the next 3 months, right? Like, there's an opportunity. We're going to get to work. There's no worry about you getting to work, obviously. And when Carrie was reading you earlier, there was that information about, you have a million ideas. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, because when I look at her link tree, yeah, she's doing a lot. She's got a lot on offer for you all. There's a lot of very tangible things that Aunt Carla has got for you to help you on your spiritual walk, on your spiritual practice. So I love hearing about that. And to me, it went beautifully with that first card of the reading. And this is so great because these are freaking supporting elements. It's not even the cream. Like, this is just getting started. And who doesn't love aces, especially for hoodoos, right? Because Carla was talking about something earlier about how using your magic to build the life that you want, and how, we're looking for opportunities. That's what, in hoodoo, we call that road opening work. It's my favorite kind of work. It corresponds to a color that I love working with, like yellow, orange is like opening the road, making it clear so that you can pursue, these projects, these the things that inspire us. So, here on earth in like the tangible world, which is where I know like Capricorn and Taurus likes to hang out, obviously. On the other side, the High Priestess. Now, when you said, Carla, earlier, like the card that you used to see, you used to love the most, or at least used to, gave you like the warm gushies inside. For me, it's the Queen of Wands. But when the ancestors, the universe wants me to be serious, Halakyu, okay, control the fire, Halakyu, and remember the big picture. That's when the High Priestess comes up. That's when we remember the solemnity, the deeply serious and important work that is, what does Louisa Tage call us? Like natural women. We are able to walk in front of the veil and behind the veil. We are capable of, not only are we capable of studying, receiving the knowledge, but we hold it dear. We hold it close, right? We keep it close to we see like the beautiful book of esoteric knowledge that's sitting in the lap of the High Priestess. It's kept near the pelvic bowl. We see the foot of, and actually I always say this, you can see this in like pictures of the Madonna, like all across Europe, of her seated with her foot on the moon. It's actually like very beautiful. That's reminding us again, like we are in sync with, and we study the heavens, right? Like we do things cyclically with connection to, the cosmos and the stars. Also, the High Priestesses, we are sought after. People come to us. It's why I imagine that folks like, Aunt Carla, Carrie, do we necessarily need to be doing readings for the people? No, but it's important that we do it, right? It's important that we do it. It is a responsibility, it's a responsibility. Like financially, we may not even need to do it. But it's important that we be there. People consult the High Priestess. She comes to, they come to her in search of, serious like information. Normally when somebody brings themselves to the foot of the High Priestess is because it's real, it's real serious. The High Priestess advises kings and queens. It's very serious. And so this is a call back to the solemnity, the seriousness, the deep beauty, how ancient our calling is, and how we ever, we have that responsibility to be the priestess. So obviously that is going to be so much a part of the foundation of this project. It makes so much sense for the you bringing your magic to it. You're already, obviously we know you're a woman that understands astrology, understands tarot. You talked to us a little earlier about how that's how you're approaching, like each season within the year. So it's very important to bring that to the work that you're doing. It's going to be seminal. It's also going to be where you flex the most power over it, how you're able to affect it the most. So obviously, I mean, the magician, when I see the magician, I'm thinking, yep, magic, do your spell work, get your altar together, whether it's, the physical, your body is the altar, or whether you're doing spell work. Kind of likewise with the high priestess. And obviously certain things I don't want to go over because it makes sense. You understand the importance of the cycles of the moon, what is going on in the stars. Like, I understand that you know all that, so I don't have to explain that to you, but it's obviously very big. We know that that's major arcana energy to our listeners. Like, again, big booming voices from the sky, major milestones in our life, big important moments. So those are just the supporting elements. Oh my gosh. So it already means like you're going into it with opportunity and with the power that's required for you to experience success around this. And the fun part in the middle, the cream, right? Like, like the creamy filling in the Oreo, the yummy part, the stuff we're all trying to get to. A meeting. There's going to be some kind of new relationship that happens. Because all relationships don't have to be romantic. Obviously, in a love reading, this is very important. And we know that Carla is doing this work like in partnership. So there is something about this. So it's two-part for me. There's an important meeting that's going to be taking place with someone with whom you are of like mind, and that there's somewhere along this process, something new is happening. It feels very much like a friendship networking, right? Because we understand so much of like success too is networking. So, you're very romantically and deeply partnered up. So there's the second part of that. But the first part is, we're going to be over the next 3 or 4 months looking for a meeting, or when you're networking, something is going to happen that something sparks where you're like, oh, this is a partnership or a relationship that is going to be very important to me in doing this. And it's going to be at the very beginning. So it's very interesting. Now, the second prong to that, the part that has to do with you already, how do I say this? Very sweetly recall those wonderful, tender, sweet moments of the beginning of the romantic, there's something about the beginning of that, very, very, the sweetness of the first meeting with your partner. Like, there's something about that that's important to recall and go back to and to think about during the process. I'm going to imagine, especially when things ever get tense or stressful, like I can't even imagine doing any kind of work with my partner, like at all. Like I'm going to be doing it and helping him, working with it on the book he's working on, but that's going to be that part is going to be the part that I would like meditate on and remember this is the love of my life. Like this is, remember the sweetness of us first meet, like when we first met, we first caught eyes. And this is what I especially love to point out. You know how you said, Carla, you like to show people the cards? I do too. When I was on Clubhouse, I used to love to describe the cards. When we're looking at the more femme figure, like draped in blue, do we notice the correspondence with the blue of the high priestess? She's wearing the laurel wreath, right? Like in tarot, in hoodoo, we love the laurel wreath, right? Like, or the bay, like I use bay everywhere. There's bay trees all around us. She's wearing that laurel wreath. To me, that says a winner. She's smart. Like she's a winner. She's smart. She brings her holiness, her grounding as like a spiritual woman, and how smart she is and what a winner she is to the table. So let's remember that. It's just an invitation to remember that, especially on that end. And of course, the other figure, the animal skin, ferocity, heat, magnetism, the roses in his hair, like that's a little bit more romantic. And of course, remembering that the whole thing is blessed, right? That's why we have the lion, the winged lion, and the I forget what it's called. It's not a lemniscate. The symbol of the 2 snakes around the rod. It's like hermetic, right? Like, it's going to come to me at some wildly inappropriate moment, but that is what in the middle. So we're looking for a meeting and networking that's going to be important. And also that,
I wouldn't say that I'm like the best tarot reader, but, I have my thing. And, it's funny when you were talking about the high priestess and that people come to us, like I did not read for people until they started coming to me and asking me to do so. So that was definitely a Oh, wow. Okay. Like you want me to read for you? Because I mean, I was teaching classes and people would just send me DMs like, would you do a reading for me? And I always did readings for myself, but I never went out of my way to read for other people. And then I kept getting requests for it. So I had to like set up like, shop to do so. So, that I'm moving into, I'm not changing things, but I'm moving into doing more music production. So one of the things that I have been thinking is that also the work that I do is Aunt Carla, that magic red soul flower is also a lot of foundational piece, meaning that is also my business. My current business is my spiritual business. And so when I see I see that the high priestess work, my work as Aunt Carla, is the foundation. And that is it is supporting me while I make this pivot. So it's not like, oh, you're not just going to abandon it. And then also it was really interesting to me. So to see like the Two of Cups, I immediately went to the thing that, well, I'm also in partnership with my husband. So I don't know that it's like, I'm like, oh, that's a new thing. Cause like I see it and I'm like, oh, okay. So that means we're going to continue to work together. So
yeah, I always, when I'm doing a reading like this, I'm always thinking about external, internal. Like, cause I tell women often that like, especially when they come for me reading, I'm like, I need you to understand, and this comes out of my background in domestic violence, sexual assault, reproductive health. My focus is you. Like, what is like that there's a partner, awesome. That there's kids, great. But in terms of like, but I'm on your side always. And sometimes I got to be on your side against these kids. Sometimes I got to be on your side against the man, against the job. Like, I need you to know. And again, with hoodoo too, because I tell people this with like love readings. I'm like, I don't care about them so much as I care about you. I'm helping you. You know what I mean? Like this is, like, so what very clearly comes across is so two-pronged. Like, obviously, this is going to be lovely with you and your partner, you all working together. And also, this is another message of that card on that vein is turning to each other instead of on each other, especially when things, you know what I mean? I that's something I remember, like it's been, I think we've been married like 30 years. And that's another beautiful message of this card. So I'm thinking about it in two ways. Like for you, you quiet, deep feelings inside, and also the part of you that in doing the work has to interact with the rest of the world and with the cups too. And when it comes to business, I always think about meetings, networking. Like, do you know what I mean? Like sometimes those are little things, the little relationships, because you remember how you said earlier, like some people have the connection, some people have money. That's something they have, and some of us don't. Some of us have to make that for themselves. So something very clearly to me says, oh, okay, well, all right, there's some networking that's going to happen, like someplace, something feels old yet new about it.
No, I love that too. I love that too. I'm now, on the other hand, like the two of us, we've been married, 2019. So we're still very, very much I still feel very, very newlywed, still very lovey-dovey, still very supportive, and I don't expect it to change anytime soon, but also co-writers, we do so much together. Like I see this card as an affirmation that the work that we have started doing, and we're a really great team. So networking and meeting someone new aside, I just see this as an affirmation that the work that we're doing, the work that we've started, the new things that we're doing are going to be successful, because I think we're in a really great place, and he's a Virgo, I'm a Capricorn. I'm still trying to find out the rest of his chart, but like the synergy is there. So I feel it's just an affirmation that I'm on the right path as far as that's concerned as well.
Love it. And I also just want to say, as your astrologer for today, that this Jupiter and Uranus conjunction that's coming up is about expansion too. So it's also like this and.
I like that very much, Carrie. This and I'm writing that down. Thank you.
So expand into the possibilities of even more. Yeah. And what you got right now. Yeah.
I don't know why I just never thought I was a person that was for whom making money or doing something I love, like I'd experience it so viscerally. Like I'd always heard about it, but I didn't really believe it the way I always heard, like, oh, if you find the right exercise, you'll love it. I'm like, that's a lie. I don't believe that. I ain't never found any exercise like I love until I found dance. Like, or until like I never dreamed of going into business until I'm like, but I love reading tarot for people. I would do this all day and people will pay me. Like I could literally talk about this all day. Oh my God, what a pleasure. What a pleasure reading for you, Carla. Like, this is so wonderful.
At this moment, the time of recording, Mercury is retrograde. Now, when I first I was in connection with Carrie, I was like, I'm working on this thing called Big Magic. And Big Magic is what I was talking about before about using magic in a bigger way, meaning contacting your future you. So I believe that there is a version of you who has already achieved what it is that you want to achieve or called in whatever you want to call in. And there are tools you can use to tap into that person and say, hey, what do I need to know? What can I learn? How do I get from where I am right now to where you are? And that's not like a spell to get money. That's a different, that's why I call it big magic, because it's a bigger kind of expansive way of thinking about using magic. And some people do this without even using magic. So this comes under quantum jumping, timeline jumping. There's all these other ways of talking about this. And when I first heard about it, I'm like, yeah, this is really great. And I love participating in these kind of circles. But I'm like, my witchy girls, I don't know, this might be kind of weird for them. I'm like, there's got to be a magical way to also do this. So for the past couple of years, I have been studying more about this and figuring out what are the magical tools that I could offer to get that same effect that people can understand. And so I've been writing different articles for different witchy magazines and doing things with my membership coven, Magical You. And we do for the full moon, we do a guided meditation called Your Future You meditation. So first we work on archetypes and I ask them, okay, what do you want to bring in? And then, okay, who are the archetypes that you need to tap into to get into that? And then I say, okay, we'll take it one step further. Who are some representatives of those archetypes? Because when you have an idea of what someone is or who someone is, and then you're able to tap into that. So I say that we're all diamonds, right? So we all have different facets. We're multifaceted. So you want to tap into that part of you. If you're attracted to doing something, that means it's within you already. You might feel like, well, I want to be a warrior, but I'm not really a warrior, but I want to do that. But the thing that means it's in you. So my goal is, how can I help you tap into that? And that's what Big Magic is about, and how to create an avatar or an archetype, or, you might say, okay, I need a little more She-Ra in my energy. I need to bring a little more Maya Angelou into my energy. I need more Missy Elliott. I need more Beyonce. Whoever those things are. So the people that represent those archetypes for you. So I have been creating my framework, and so when you first asked me the question, I'm like, well, I'm working on a new course called Big Magic, but it's not ready yet. I'm like, wait, I still need more time to put it all together. Now that this is Mercury retrograde, I was like, okay, let me go back to another course that I have that's already ready to go. And it actually includes some pieces of Big Magic in there. And it's like one of those things talking about when, we talk about creating too much. I would never say I create too much. I create just enough. And but I create a lot. And the thing is, if you're like me and you're someone who is capable and you do so much, there is a struggle with sticking to one thing because you have this new idea and you want to get onto this new thing. And the message that I received during this Mercury retrograde period was, you know what? You need to go back and pull this other course back, because that is still, it's fire and it's called Your Spellcraft Blueprint. So it talks about how to create the spells that only you could create. So the idea is that I'm focusing on that right now because A, it's done. B, it's fantastic. And C, maybe I never really gave it enough chance to really ferment, percolate. Like one of my mentors had said, sometimes we give up on new projects or offers too soon. And she's like, you need to give time to things to really, to get the messaging right, to really figure out who it's for. And I'm thinking now, like, maybe not that I gave up on it, but just I had a new idea. I went to this next thing. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going to pull it back in. Your Spellcraft Blueprint is available. And I'm really, I gave it like a really amazing price. I brought it down so everyone can access it easily. It's a whole bundle of things. It's fantastic. And this also, and while I promote it, it gives me time to complete Big Magic. So Big Magic is coming, but right now your Spellcraft Blueprint is the thing. Now, brand new, I have created a new ebook, and I want to offer it to any of your listeners who might want to get a taste. And it's called Pathways to Power: The Art of Magic and Manifestation. So it's a taste of what you can get in your Spellcraft Blueprint. So this is a way of you getting to taste it before you decide, okay, I want to go ahead and just grab the thing. So you don't have to, but you can get this and say, oh, this is really amazing. Well, hopefully you would say that. So if you wanted to get that, you can get that at redsoulflower.com/path. Just make it very, very simple. You can get it right now, 24 hours a day. It comes right to you. And if you like what it's about, I'm talking about setting intentions and creating alignment, things like sensory elements, like how your body is a magic wand. I talk about natural ingredients that you use in your rituals. There's so many different ways that we all, as spiritual, magical practitioners, access magic. So I want to give people that permission to try different things, or to try the things that you really want to try. So that is what your Spellcraft Blueprint is, because no one does magic like you. Like, you could take the same ritual and it's going to look totally different, and that's fine. And it's still going to be powerful because it's you. So right now your Spellcraft Blueprint is the thing. So, if you, let's see. Yeah. So magic to help yourself. That is what I do.
I love that. Magic to help you help yourself. Yes. Yourself. Treat yourself.
Because also, self-care, self-aware, self-help, your higher self, that was deliberate.
Of course. Well, also, I mean, and that also, it's just for me with self-care, that was the whole point. It's like astrology is this, and being able to study the self. But I also just want to just give you a special shout out. All of the names you come up with for your offerings are amazing. Like, you are just a master at naming. I don't know how you do it. I don't know what you do, like what kind of spell you cast, but they're amazing.
But I'll tell you a secret. And lately, I've been getting inspiration from ChatGPT, but the thing is, I don't give it.
The way witches can use ChatGPT. I don't understand why more people aren't excited about it. Please keep talking.
Yeah. But the thing is, I don't take what they give me verbatim. It's like there's something about asking the question and they'll give you an answer, and then they'll be like, oh, I come up with something else. Or I will ask for like 10 things, or I'll ask for 20, and then I will move stuff around, and I'll have like another thought, and then I'll just, I use it as sort of like a catalyst for inspiration. And, ChatGPT is really helpful for things like descriptions and bios. Like, I'll give it the details that I want included. And I'm like, can you write this? Because it's like how something like a description of a class could take me like I could take 5 days to write that on my own. But then if I said, and I call it Chatty Patty, like Chatty Patty, because she just talks. You just give her a prompt. And the thing is, it's also important to know how to give her a good prompt, So she's Chatty Patty. So I go to Chatty Patty. I'm like, Chatty Patty, I'm trying to create this, I'm creating a book, and it's going to be about this. Can you give me 10 titles? And she'll give me 10 titles, and I'll like none of them, but I might like a nugget of something, and that will give me something else. Or I might use part of one and part of something else. And that's why you still need that human element if you're working with AI. So I know some people will be like, oh my God, like, no, the stuff I write is all mine. But when it comes to things like describing stuff or titles, I just can't be bothered because that'll take me forever to come up with something like really.
Chatty Patty is helpful with the least magical parts of your practice. Like sometimes, you know what I mean? Especially if you're a business person. I say that and I so agree with you, Carla, like when it comes to some of the stuff that is just not fun at all, it will give you a lump of clay. Like sometimes it gives you a lump of clay. And so you don't have to start from an empty page and you just start creating your work of art out of that clay. And I would like to, and it goes to something you mentioned earlier about archetypes. And I remember thinking, how fun would it be to create my own goddess or avatar? Like if I was creating what Beyonce is like a Sasha Fierce, or if I was creating the Halakyu version of the Queen of Wands, which every time you say only the magic that you can do, I always think, yep, that's the Queen of Wands, because can't nobody do it the way you do it. I promise can't nobody do it the way you do it. I use GPT. I was like, let me just come up with everything like that I would want for her to have. She would look like this. Her skills and strengths would be this. Her weakness is this. Her secret source of power is this. Like, what does that look like, Chatty Patty? And then, like, talk to me.
And then how do you tap into that, what do you do to tap into that Queen of Wands energy? Do you meditate, or you do particular yoga poses? Like, do you have a method?
If you're new to kind of doing magic, listeners, like one of the things that we learned that is very important to generate power, a lot of this, to generate power, and people do it in different ways. You can take it elementally, like sounds like what Carla's going to be doing, like music. Music is representative to me of the element air. Fire, to me, fire is dancing. And so I call on what is natural to me, what is most powerful to me, the way I make something happen. And that is with dance. Like when I was first studying Afro-Cuban dance, Afro-Brazilian dance, dancing Ochun, like something happened to me. Like I was not aware of what was happening to me. I didn't know why I was crying in class. Like what is, and everyone's like, oh, she's having Ocha right now. Like everybody's got to give her, give her space. So for me, the way I embody, the way I dream, storm, and vision is the place that I go through. Like there are times when I'm in class, I'm completely gone. And then I'm like, was I still dancing this whole time? Was the whole thing like, I guess I'm still dancing. Okay. I guess that's just happened. So that's where my dreaming, my power generation. And when I made my version, I use this great app. It's like a collaging app. It's like collaging social media. I have to tell you about it. It's a lot of fun because it comes to creating your visual spell. It's one of the ones that I actually use. So that's kind of how it happens for me. Like I cannot sing. I'm not much of a I'm not a garden witch. They literally got Halakyu, the orchid killer Hannah. God only knows how many houseplants I have killed in my lifetime. But dancing, that is how I connect to the ancestors, how I connect to spirit, and how I integrate just about every aspect of Queen of Wands, right? Because it's how I get to be Sasha Fierce. I get to, like be that kind of the strength card. Yeah.
Do you know the story behind Sasha Fierce and Beyonce using her as an avatar?
No, I don't. I don't know the story. I don't know. I mean, I know she did it, but there's a story. I didn't know the story. Tell me the story.
I tell you really quickly. So when Beyonce was younger, she was like this young church girl, and she knew she was already talented, and she knew she wanted to, be big and famous and successful and all these things, but she was actually really shy. So she came up with the name Sasha Fierce, which represented this person, this larger than life performer. And so when she would be on stage, she would tell herself that that's not me, that's Sasha Fierce. So the Sasha Fierce she's tapping into that avatar, shall we say. And that way she could dance and sing and do all these things that she felt that little Beyonce couldn't do. Now, as you know, a few years ago, she released an album called dating myself, called I Am Sasha Fierce. She did that because she was acknowledging that she no longer needed that alter ego. She had become Sasha Fierce. And so whenever I hear, when I think about that, I think it's so amazing that she really is. It's like, so she wasn't always that way. So these are things I talk about in Big Magic and these different articles. And a quick note, my husband has heard me tell this story so many times. So yesterday, he's a music teacher, among other things. And someone was talking about they wanted to do this performance, but they get really nervous. So he told this person about Sasha Fierce and Beyonce, and they're like, really? Oh, I didn't know. And then later on, another parent was this was like the receptionist he was speaking with. So then later on, he overheard the receptionist telling one of the students' mothers about Sasha Fierce. And I was like, this is so great. So everyone's talking about Sasha Fierce.
What you described, first of all, is so wonderful when the partners like take that wisdom and through them, they share it, which is so wonderful. But what you described, because I see, people say I see dead people, I see tarot cards. When you said that about Beyonce integrating Sasha Fierce, to me, that is representative of the strength card, that beautiful, delicate femme, whatever the hell that is for you, however when she embraces the ferocious beast, that's when that integration happens and she can walk around. That's why I was going to say, well, I used to kind of put the Queen of Wands on in dance class, but the more I live my chart, the more I give myself over to my spirituality, the more this is how I walk around.
Carla, I want you to talk really quickly about this amazing gift that you are offering for our Patreon members. So for those who are listening or Patreon members, will get a wonderful gift from Aunt Carla. It's called the Future. I love this. Future You Grimoire. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this is very similar to, this is all in that whole Big Magic thing, the Pantheon. So the Future You Grimoire. So it's part Book of Shadows, it's part vision board, it's all these different things. It's a place for you to kind of commune with your future you. And so we talk about archetype work. So for example, I'm currently channeling Beyonce, Missy Elliott, and Jay-Z. Those are who I'm working with. So in my Future You grimoire, I'm doing things like I'm putting pictures of them. I'm getting quotes of them. I'm writing different things that make me, what are the elements of them that calm me, that I want to incorporate, that I want to integrate. I write that down. I also use it as a vision book, kind of like a vision board. So I collage. So you could, I guess it's this, it's digital. The Future You grimoire that you all get to have is digital. So if you wanted to do it on like your notepad or something on your iPad, you totally could. But you could also print it out and put it into another book and use collage that way. So you could do digital collage if you prefer digital, or you can print out things and put it into like a paper book kind of collage as well. So that idea is that it is a place for you to, also you can use it for creating sigils, place your sigils if you're doing your script manifesting. It's just a place for you to continue to go. Your future you is that person that had that version of you who has called in whatever it is that you want to call in. So the more you use this book, the more you connect with it, the more you're able to make that come to life. So it's just a place for you to visit and revisit and to strengthen your connection to that future you. So that's the Future You grimoire, and that is what your people are getting.
We're really excited. Well, of course, we're super excited to have Carla with us. We're going to have to close the show because we really could be here forever. We just want to say thank you so much for being here in the middle of Mercury in Aries retrograde, and being with us and blessing us right before your Jupiter and Uranus conjunction. I can't wait to see how that's going to happen. I hope you will come back and share a little bit of what you experience with us. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm very excited about this Jupiter Uranus conjunction coming up. I did not even know. So thank you. And I'm excited. And it just kind of makes me, all of this just kind of affirms I'm on the right path, and that I will just keep keep doing what I'm doing.
Carla, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Carrie, thank you for arranging this amazing interview with this amazing woman. Like I was telling Carla when we were getting started, how for so many new witches, sorceresses, hoodoos, sometimes that first prayer and petition is show me a mentor. Like who is going to guide me? Who is going to teach me that I can trust? Because you know what I mean? Like there's so many people out here that capitalize on the innate power of spiritual power of Black and brown women. And so that first prayer, like, show me somebody that I can trust. On Carla is somebody you can trust. Okay. The Melanated Mystics, we are people that you can trust to help you, guide you on that journey. So thank you for being with us. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Carla. Thank you.
That was so beautiful.
Thank you for having me. This has been amazing and healing, just like, it's been just to be here with you all. It's been a wonderful experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was beautiful, Heliku. All right, everybody. Thank you.